and welcome to Home Care, the Future of Cleaning. And in particular, my presentation, the future isn't anymore what it used to be. Exciting new opportunities and provocative new challenges. Well, I would like to start with my agenda here. And you see, we will be in a kind of new normal. That is the future. And what some people, especially in innovation management, would have always wished to have the famous black swan, something that is completely unpredicted, that happens and changes almost everything. We have had this situation, and we are in the middle of the pandemic that changed a lot. And if some people say, in 1 year we are back to the normal, there will be not the normal that we have known, but it will be a new normal. And it's the topic of my presentation. What is the new normal? And that's the reason why I've taken the title, The Future Isn't More What It Used to Be. One important element is, of course, the pandemic itself. And we have to check what the pandemic will do about the innovation machine running in our labs and how consumer behaviors and attitude have changed. We will tackle the topic of climate change and the European Green Deal. And at the end, there is a new paradigm for innovation that results from this, what is then concluded in the takeaway. But first, let's see what is really behind the new normal that we will face. I've given this new normal 3 names. One is Corona, the other one is Greta, and the third one is Ursula. But look, okay, let's be a little bit more serious. So behind that, there are three important dimensions. One is the pandemic itself. The second one is the climate change. And the third one is the Green Deal and everything that comes with that. And here I would like to first address the part of pandemic. Pandemic will and has changed already and will also in the future change the way how we do innovation and our innovation management and what is happening in our labs. And it has already changed consumer behavior in a very holistic sense. Concerning the economy, that is not my part, but of course there was a strong influence last year, a strong recovery in the second half of last year, and even the opportunity to catch up or even have a recovery which is stronger than the year before 2019. So I will focus here on innovation management and consumer behavior in terms of pandemic. And let's have a look in our innovation labs where we all work. Innovation management and R&D organization is affected, of course. You see here a very recent publication of the German Patent Office about the patent application landscape in the year 2020. And we see here in total, that is what they report, in total a reduction of around about 5,000 patents against the background of 67,000 that was the regular level in the years before, so that it dropped by 8%. And you see in several areas we have a very strong reduction, while of course in computing we have seen an increase. And what I would say in our business, we might be also here in that area between transport and machines, as of course the lab work itself was affected in the first shutdown, in the first wave. People are not in the lab, but it increased through the entire year. I would say in an industry average, we've got several inputs here, to more than 80%. And the efficiency in the labs might be close to 100 or even bigger than 90. And there was even another efficiency that is, I have given it here, a number higher than 100, 120% in meetings and administration. Everything is on time. You can do meetings in different locations because the location is anyway the digital location. So there is a much more kind of efficiency that was supported by all the digital tools. One of the tools is just what we face at the time being. So we have a better opportunity to participate in several things that are not at the same time, but maybe would be normally at different locations. And we can save even some carbon dioxide emissions, as we have seen, as we did the registration for this conference here. But I am more concerned about the efficacy. So what we are doing and not how we're doing it. So we are still below the pandemic status. Yeah. There are personal meetings that are not possible anymore. Agility, of course, there is much more agility now in the companies to compensate, but creativity and in particular serendipity is really impacted in a negative sense. Because just an example, in the company that I worked for 32 years, you could bump into somebody you have not seen 3 months before, 3 months in 3 months before, and you bump into that person when going in for lunch in the canteen, and then you say, and that could be the starting point of a great innovation, asking what he or she has done during the last 3 months. This will not happen. So serendipity and creativity is a topic to address, and there will be a huge opportunity for those companies who are have the better answers for the efficacy topic in the future. But coming back to our consumers and the markets here. So consumer behavior has also changed dramatically. You see here from McKinsey, a study that they updated 2 weeks ago with an element of consumer behavior and attitude study that they made in last fall. And you see that consumer behavior, how they tried new shopping behaviors here is dramatically changing. Of course, in areas last year that during summer suffered more from the pandemic than, for example, Europe has suffered. I'm pretty sure if this study is redone in this time, so in springtime in Europe, that will show even a higher change also for European countries. So, and what is here the element, or what are the elements here? There's a shift to value and essential. So people want to see products in our categories that are really going for hygiene. They are more interested not only in their own, but also in the impact on the earth, and want to see more sustainability. Plus, performance is for them important. There is also a change in shopping behaviors. What we have seen on the right side here, but here value, quality, and purpose, and omni-channel is an important topic. And staying at home, of course, that is a convenience thing, and there is even higher spend for laundry and home care, not for staying, but because people are staying at home, so they have more opportunities to clean their home and to have, for example, if they prepare lunch and dinner at home and are not outside, they have more dishes to clean up afterwards, and that the companies who are involved in that could see in their turnover. And what we have seen also here, the shopping with e-commerce is another important topic. So, but what consumers will not change is that if they go for sustainability, they would like to have 3 elements. First, in using the product, not only in the purchasing price, they would like to see some affordability. So cost and efficiency have to be in the right balance. Then products have to be easy for use, and they should work as they promise. So performance will stay an important part. So what does that mean for us as members of the industry and the value chain? And this leads me directly to the next dimension, that is climate change. And it's climate change. We will even at the beginning topic address the topic of smart formulations, and then moving to the CO2 footprint, not only for the materials but also for the use phase and what we can do about it, and then what we can do along the value chain in supplier collaboration. And we have other presentations that I'm pretty sure will address this topic even further with some solutions that could be used by everybody who is in that value chain and is formulating products. So the first topic is product formulation, and smart formulations will be an important element of the future. And it's even this challenge is an opportunity. The challenge comes from the circle of Mr. Sinner, so the Sinner's circle. In former times, chemistry played a role, of course, beside time, temperature, but mechanics was the biggest part. That may be the time where hand washing was used so a long time ago. Today, the biggest element is chemistry, and chemistry is not only chemistry alone, it comes also with biotechnology. Solutions for chemistry. So it's biochemistry at the end, as the other parts are smaller contributors to the result. So we want to have short washing circles, lower temperatures, of course, also an element of sustainability, and mechanics is something that can damage the cloth, so it should also be reduced. What we see at the moment is that is really a challenge for all of us, is that the current washing temperature is more or less stable in Europe on an average of 41 degrees Celsius. And there is no move for during the last 3-6 years. There's also for everybody who is close to consumers is an important task to address the topic further. On the other side, and on the other side, address also the solutions to make that possible, that people could go down with their washing temperature. Because even a reduction by 3 degrees Celsius could save 2,300 gigawatt hours per year of energy. Just as a comparison, that is just the energy that is used to drive with 20 million cars. And that is really a huge contribution to climate saving, or to even to stop the climate change. Consumers request improved and low temperature solutions as they see it as a part of performance. And for us, that means we have to go for the superior performance. We have to develop more sustainable ingredients at the same time, and also come to higher concentrated formulations, as more power per volume is also a metric of the future. And to start with the first element is then the CO2 footprint for the sustainable ingredients here. And I show you an example how to do that. And the example here is a company that is for several years publishing the CO2 footprint of the entire value chain. That is Henkel, and you see that what they just announced 2 weeks ago with the sustainability report. By the way, it was the 30th sustainability report of the company, is 45.7 million tons of CO2 or CO2 equivalents throughout the year. And you see immediately in the famous scope 1 and 2 of the production, there's only 1%. 99% is from scope 3, and here the biggest contributions are 26% from raw materials, including packaging materials, and the much bigger portion comes from the products in use. So how to address this topic is something that chemists in the lab will do every day, and marketeers are asking where solutions are coming, and consumers want to see the results in the shelves, and our customers are asking also for good solutions and differentiating offers. So the action is on raw materials. One is the selection part, select the better ones. And the second one is collaborate with suppliers, how to develop even new materials, or how to see how on science-based targets the footprint can be reduced. And in the use space, it's also good, about smart formulations that we have already addressed at lower temperatures. So the chemicals and raw materials topics, there are solutions. So for example, for the chemicals, more renewable materials, if these materials come like vegetable oils, are grown sustainable. That's very important. Otherwise, it would not be very helpful. Then select ingredients by individual CO2 footprint. Some companies have own data. Other companies have to talk to suppliers to find data for, at the end, generating LCAs for all those ingredients. And at the end, it's important to have a supplier collaboration on a roadmap to lower further emissions in future. that is chemicals. Packaging is also contributing. There are several packaging strategies out, and Henkel has here some targets that are standing for the industry. Other companies like Unilever have quite similar targets here. That in the main part here that goes for the climate topic is reduce fossil plastic by 50% by the year 2025. So what might be at a time being on a level between 10 and 15 has to grow, and a strong contribution is then here mechanical recycled material, but also chemical and bio-based plastic if it comes with a lower footprint as virgin. That's very important. So how to talk with how to deal with a lower footprint is I would like to show here is an example that is science-based on the general principles to do that, and what are the individual material, and at the end also what is then coming out as a consequence for the products. So the general principles, there are only three. You can reduce, means you save energy in raw materials. You can substitute, means you defossilize, replace your sources of fossil CO2, for example, by renewables, and to capture. That is a little bit what we would say music of the future, and only existing in pilot scale, but this will be also a change agent or an enabler for change in the future to convert CO2 into raw materials on a technical scale. And on the individual material element, that means first it's important to know what is the raw material database of a company. So I know from my Henkel times that Henkel has started quite early to work on that. The second one is for a certain raw material, the concrete chemical composition. Sometimes it's a solution that is only, let's assume 70% the chemical itself and 30% is water, for example. And then to calculate the footprint. And there might be, in the meantime, some companies which have proprietary footprint databases. Others use generic, or even others have to talk to their suppliers. At the end, you can from this data, you can then calculate via the raw material for the entire formulation, the footprint and the emission factor of the final product. And there are even some tools, and I know it from Henkel, there are IT tools that help the chemist in the lab to optimize the formulation for the purpose of CO2 emissions. And that goes also with the selection of better materials. What are suppliers doing for that? There are some suppliers have started in that and being very helpful and supportive. I have here two examples. One is SABIC, who has created the so-called truth circle approach to support customers using mass balance from renewable plastic material. And you see here, that is normally the fossil part. The blue bar here is standing for the fossil part that goes in the steam cracker. But if you also add some pyrolysis oils coming from chemical recycling of plastic waste, for example, or some bio naphtha material that comes from, for example, from paper industries or bio-based material, that is then the part of non-fossil. And with a mass balance calculation for this entire bar, you can follow up through the entire manufacturing and converting, and until the final product, you can even allocate the non-fossil elements to some products. So this is an approach that SABIC has started several years ago. And also BASF, as an example, is following this with the biomass balance and the chem cycling approach. And the principle is here the same. So the inflow is not only fossil, but also biomass balance and also chemical recycling material. And at the end, you have the allocation to a certain output here. And that stands for examples. I'm pretty sure there are more companies on the supplier side going for that element. And it's very important to address the climate topic. But beside climate change, there is one political dimension that has grown speed and is accelerating now the impact on our industry, and that is I would like to turn to here to the Green Deal. And Green Deal is much more than only looking for a climate neutral Europe in the year 2050, it has strong elements that will change the way of our industry, how we're doing business. And we have to be also here very close to everybody who is designing regulation. So it's about circular economy. It's about the chemical strategy for sustainability materials. And it's also about transparency, not only by the regulator, but also by our stakeholders. And it's about how to address the right regulation, how we can preempt. And that is then the final part of my presentation. But start first with the circularity. I have here a great example how a company takes this challenge and moves it into an opportunity. So Unilever has created some months ago the so-called carbon rainbow for the home care business. And you see here the different colors of the rainbow. Means everything goes in circle. At the end, you don't need any more some fossil input. So that is a non-fossil renewable carbon circle. And to drive this circle, of course, there is some renewable energy needed to even move, for example, here, gray carbon, that is the carbon that comes from plastic waste. And for example, via chemical recycling, the waste material can be turned into virgin material, but not fossil based. And for that, green energy, of course, is needed. Then we have everything that comes from the biosphere. We have here one thing that comes from plants. And the other source is everything that is coming from marine sources. And what we have said also, that is the typical thing, if the resource is taken from CO2 itself, for example, comes from the atmosphere, then this is here the purple element of the rainbow. And at the end, the circle is closed. And that is important to drive even the circular economy forward. Also it's important to make it not only technically viable, but also economically viable, because at the end, consumers are at the end of the value chain, and pretty sure there is a high probability at the end consumers have to bring their contribution and to pay for that. So, but it's a great approach. The European Union is also approaching the topic of circularity, and even with the chemical strategy for chemicals with higher sustainability. And they have made an action plan that I've taken here from our European detergent industry associations, who has made this way forward here. On the one side, you see the measures, and I do not want to go for time reasons here in the details, but you can download this and get more information from the AISE on that. Here are more than the activities that will follow up. But you see, that is quite busy what we as an industry will have to do in the next years, and what is important to follow. And the most important element for the industry in total is to have a clear guidance, because we want to know what is to have at least one element of uncertainty going out of the future. What is the base for new regulation? What we have to deal with in the future. But we can be sure that to derive that, there will be answers needed on one element that I would like to call sustainable sourcing, and the other element is sustainable eco-toxicological profile of our product. So the sourcing goes with traceability and transparency of the ingredients, where they're coming from, and the mass balance approach that we have seen already in the vegetable oil area. Natural content and bio-based ingredients will play an important role in the sustainable sourcing and the use phase and renewable carbon, and even upcycling if we use former waste material and turn waste into value. On the sustainability ecotox profile, microplastic will play an important role, and what I said even beforehand, that is the kind of comeback to improve the biodegradability of all polymers. in all ingredients at the end. And all this has to happen on a science-based sustainability ingredient label base. That could be a solution at the end also to address to consumers that we all are using the right ingredients. Concerning the topic of transparency, I would like to give you the example that you see here on the left side. There are new platforms popping up. In Germany, it would be CodeCheck. I've taken here the example of the French platform Yuka. Why Yuka? Because Yuka has already more than 20 million followers. So people are using this platform that is at the time being addressing only foods and cosmetics. But you know, we are with our home care products, we are also close by, and maybe you cannot stop people using the QR codes or even the EIN label on our products to use the Yuka methodology, and they will get some results. So people ask for evaluation of our products, and if we don't go for it, there will be platforms going for it, and I think it's a challenge, but also an opportunity for our industry to address those with, let's say, some background information. And the big important, or the important dimension here is always the balance or the right calculation and assessment based on risk and not on hazard. We know that very well. And here we are coming then here to the topic of an idea that is used in the food area of the Nutri-Score that gives guidance and that is even co-developed by the industry and is of voluntary use in Europe. So with that, I will come to a topic of regulation, and very short here. You can look it up then later because the slides sent to you, or you can download those slides later. That is here the example of microplastic. You see here the regulation roadmap and what companies will address on that, and the same will be true with a different time scale on biodegradable polymers in total. So at the end, it's important to preempt regulation and to react earlier on that, and that makes a new paradigm for product innovation. Performance and sustainability have always been an important element of innovation, but regulation will be the third dimension in the future. So the sweet spot is the intersection of these three circles here. And that leads me then directly to also to the last slide, the takeaway. To sum it up and to conclude, the pandemic has created a new normal with groundbreaking changes. R&D has to focus more on efficacy, agility, and creativity. Consumers have changed towards value and sustainability even more than in the future, and asking for transparency. The climate neutrality requires science-based reduction of CO2 footprints for ROS and the use phase. And the European chemical strategy drives innovation by preempting regulation. And preempting regulation is then the new paradigm also, and as the intersection of performance, sustainability, and regulation, the new paradigm for innovation. Thank you very much for your attendance, and much more insights from the entire day spending with this special event for the home care industry. Thank you very much, and I'm now happy to answer your questions.